Most apartment preppers think a few cases of bottled water means they are ready for a 3-day outage. But do the math. The basic emergency baseline is 1 gallon of water per person per day. So if 2 people live in your apartment, just 3 days means about 6 gallons or nearly 23 liters. And here is the part most people miss. Even if you already have that much water, your plan can still fail. Because the biggest apartment water mistake is not simply storing too little. It is storing water in a way that becomes difficult to reach, difficult to move, easy to waste, and impossible to replace once the first supply starts disappearing. Today, I'm going to show you 5 mistakes that can cut the usefulness of your water supply dramatically and exactly how to fix each one without turning a small apartment into a warehouse. Stay with me through the last one because the final mistake has almost nothing to do with how much water you own. And in a high-rise, it can make a full water stash practically useless. Start with mistake number 1, guessing instead of calculating. Open your pantry mentally right now. How much water is actually there? Not a few bottles, not probably enough. How many gallons? For one person, a 3-day baseline is 3 gallons. For 2 people, 6. For a family of 4, 12. That is before you start thinking about longer disruptions, hot weather, pets, or anyone who may need more water. This is your first reality check. Most people do not discover they are underprepared when they buy supplies. They discover it when the faucet stops and suddenly every bottle has a countdown attached to it. So write your number down, people in your apartment multiplied by 3 days. That gives you a starting target. Now compare that target with what you actually have. If that calculation surprised you, tell me in the comments how many days your current water supply would realistically cover. And if you want practical preparedness designed specifically for renters, small apartments, and high-rises, hit like and subscribe. The goal here is not to collect gear. It is to build systems that still work when normal apartment life stops working. Now, mistake number 2, treating all stored water as one giant pile. This happens because apartment space is tight. You find one empty closet, one pantry shelf, or one space under a piece of furniture, and everything goes there. It looks organized, it feels efficient, but you just created a single point of failure. Imagine a leak from the apartment above you. Imagine boxes falling in front of that closet. Imagine discovering that one storage area has been exposed to something that damaged several containers. Your entire reserve is now tied to one location. A better apartment system uses layers. Layer 1 is immediate water, a small amount you can reach in seconds. Layer 2 is reserve water, additional containers distributed across 2 or more sensible storage locations. You do not need bottles in every room. You simply do not want one blocked closet to separate you from your entire emergency supply. And there is another benefit. Distributed storage makes the weight easier to manage. Because water is heavy. 1 gallon weighs a little over 8 pounds. That means 6 gallons for 2 people over 3 days represents roughly 50 pounds of water. Now imagine placing all of that in one oversized container. It may look efficient until you actually need to move it. This brings us to mistake number 3, choosing containers based on capacity instead of mobility. A 5-gallon container sounds great on a product page. Fill it, though, and the water alone weighs more than 40 pounds. Could you safely lift it from the floor? Could everyone in your household? Could you carry it down a hallway, through a stairwell, or up multiple flights if the elevator stopped? That last question matters more in an apartment than almost anywhere else. The perfect emergency container is not the container that holds the most water. It is the container you can actually use when conditions are bad. For many apartment setups, several smaller containers create more flexibility than one massive one. You can separate them. You can move them individually. You can access part of the supply without opening everything. And if one container develops a problem, the rest of your reserve is still intact. Here is a simple test. Take the largest water container in your current plan and imagine the elevator is out. Would you still want to carry it? If the answer is no, Your storage plan and your transportation plan are fighting each other. Now we get to mistake number 4, and this is where people burn through their supply far faster than expected. They store water for drinking, but they use it as if the faucet is still running. Think about what happens during the first day without water. Someone makes coffee, someone cooks, hands need washing, dishes need cleaning, teeth need brushing, a pet needs water. Basic sanitation still exists, and every one of those tasks starts pulling from the same limited supply. This is why your emergency water needs priorities before the emergency begins. Your safest drinking water should be protected first for drinking and food preparation. Then think separately about the other tasks that use water. The important shift is psychological. When the water shuts off, you are no longer living under normal consumption rules. Every gallon has a job, and that means conservation is part of storage. If you can reduce unnecessary water use, you have effectively extended the life of the supply you already own without finding a single extra inch of closet space. This is the moment where gear should enter the plan, not before. Once you know how many people you are planning for, how much water you need, where you can store it, and how you will move it, you can choose equipment based on an actual problem instead of buying random survival products. That is why I've put together a list of the exact gear I trust for apartment living in the description below. If you need a practical water filter, emergency lighting, core survival gear, food solutions, or resources for off-grid projects, check the pinned comment and description. You do not need to buy everything today. Start with the gap that would hurt you first. Now let's move to mistake number 5, because this is the one that can destroy the confidence created by a full pantry. Assuming stored water is the entire plan. Stored water buys time. It does not create an unlimited supply. Picture 6 gallons sitting in your apartment. At the beginning of day 1, it feels like a lot. Then you open the first container. By the end of the day, your reserve is smaller. Day 2 starts with less than day 1, and every gallon you use moves you closer to 0. So your water plan needs 2 separate questions. Question 1. How much safe water do I already have? Question 2. What are my options if the disruption lasts longer than my stored supply? Those are not the same problem. This is where a backup method for making appropriate emergency water safer can become part of the system. Storage handles the first phase. A suitable filtration or treatment strategy may expand your options later, depending on the water source and the situation. But do not make the opposite mistake and assume a filter means you do not need stored water. A filter without an available water source cannot solve your immediate problem, and stored water without any backup strategy has a hard endpoint. Redundancy is the goal. Now change one variable. The power goes out too. This is the apartment scenario people underestimate. Suddenly the problem is not only water, the elevator may be unavailable. Building systems may be affected. The stairwell becomes your transportation route, and if you are on the 10th, 15th, or 20th floor, buying water at a store is only half the task. You still have to get it home. Imagine carrying 1 gallon upstairs. Now imagine carrying 6. That is why the last mistake was never really about storage. It was about dependency. Apartment living is built around systems that make vertical life easy. Elevators move people. Pumps and building infrastructure help move essential services. Stores nearby replace the need for large household inventories. When those systems work, apartment life is incredibly convenient. But your preparedness plan exists for the moment convenience becomes a bottleneck. So here is the high-rise test I want you to do today. Pretend the elevator is unavailable for 24 hours. Look at your emergency water and ask 3 questions. Can I reach it? Can I move it? Can I ration it without guessing? If any answer is no, you found the weakness before the emergency found it for you. And there is one more layer that almost nobody talks about: discretion. You do not need to advertise your entire supply. Preparedness should blend into normal apartment life. You do not need stacks of containers visible from the hallway or a balcony that tells everyone exactly what you have. Use ordinary storage intelligently. Keep supplies accessible to you without making them a display for everyone else. That is not about being afraid of your neighbors. It is about keeping your emergency plan organized, private, and practical. Now bring all 5 mistakes together. Mistake 1, guessing how much water you need instead of calculating it. Mistake 2, keeping the entire reserve in one location. Mistake 3, choosing containers you cannot realistically move. Mistake 4, using emergency water without clear priorities. Mistake 5, believing stored water alone is a complete water plan. Fix those 5 things, and suddenly the same small apartment becomes much more resilient. You are no longer asking, "Do I own some water?" You are asking better questions. How many days does it cover? Where is it stored? How quickly can I reach it? Can I move it without an elevator? What gets priority? And what happens after the stored supply starts running out? That is an actual system. And this is the part I want you to remember. You do not need a basement. You do not need a garage. You do not need hundreds of gallons sitting around your home. Apartment prepping is not about copying what someone with 10 acres of land can do. It is about designing around your real constraints better than everyone else designs around theirs. Start with the basic number, 1 gallon per person, per day. Build toward at least your first 3 days. Then improve the system 1 weakness at a time. Do not wait until the faucet goes silent to discover that your 3-day supply was really 1 day of drinking, cooking, cleaning, and waste. Check your containers today. Check their location. Check their weight. And check whether your plan still works when you remove the elevator from the equation. If you need help building the next layer, the water and emergency prep resources I trust are linked in the description and pinned comment. Use them as a starting point and build at your own pace. And in the next video, we are going 1 step further. I'll break down apartment water filters, which types actually solve useful emergency problems, which limitations people overlook, and why buying the wrong filter can give you confidence without giving you the protection you thought you purchased. Because storing water is step 1. Knowing what to do when that stored water is gone is step 2. Prepare before the faucet goes silent.